Everything went smoothly for a few years until he graduated, got engaged, and moved his fiancée into the house. Welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go over them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, gonna go over a story titled "Not Good Enough. Couple Backed for Evicting Son Over Insulting In-Laws." And guys, this story in particular, I definitely enjoyed reading, and I'm certainly gonna enjoy telling. This is a story about a married couple, parents, that eventually evicted their son and his fiancée out of their second home after being shown incredible disrespect both from him and his girl and their family. You're going to see in this story, guys, how this family bought this second home, it sounds like for their son to live in while he was going to school in Pennsylvania. And then he was living there rent-free, and he eventually met some girl, and she moved in as well and got engaged to her. And so out of the kindness of their hearts, they're letting them live there rent-free to save up. And they went down to meet the future in-laws, excited to meet them, and they were shown unbelievable disrespect from the in-laws as well as the kids. Hit their son and all, and pretty much then they're saying, that's it, we're done. And they kicked them out, and they're going to sell the place and evicting them, which I think was awesome. Because what drives me crazy is it's amazing to me in today's day and age how the lack of manners out there is unreal. The lack of respect for elders. You know, if I pulled some of the crap that these kids do today toward their families and parents, back when I was a kid, my dad would have punched me. My old school military father would knock me out right then and there. And he most certainly would in a situation like this. So I love hearing a story of these young a-holes, these spoiled, entitled a-holes of this generation, which you all know about, get what's coming to them. Also, you're going to see what happens when a young guy, who obviously is very susceptible to manipulation, meets a gal, and she walks all over him and turns him against the loved ones. That's a sad thing, but it does happen. All right, so it starts off, it says here, members of a popular internet forum were left bewildered after one parent revealed why they evicted their son and daughter-in-law from the home they were living in rent-free. In a viral Reddit post published by the Am I the A-Hole Redditor, they said they were happy to house the engaged couple, but explained how the rent-free living arrangement imploded when they were forcefully banned from their son's wedding. Yes, you're going to see this. This guy's parents, who were letting them live there rent-free, are now banned from coming to their wedding. Imagine that. I'd say, get the hell out of the house, you entitled SOB. Titled, Am I the A-Hole for throwing them out of the house that we own? The son and future in-laws decide to exclude his family from the wedding. The post received more than 13,000 votes and 1,800 comments in the last 7 hours. That's a lot of votes. Noting that they and their wife purchased a second home in Pennsylvania when their son was in college there, the original poster said that everything went smoothly for years until he graduated, got engaged, and moved his fiancée into the house. In other words, everything was normal until he met that chick, got engaged, and she got into the house with a free rent. That's when things changed. Translation, he met some chick that was going to take advantage of him, manipulate the hell out of him, and turn him against them. And that's really sad that it happened, but he has to be held accountable for his actions. With a wedding on the horizon, the original poster said they arranged a barbecue at the second home meant to bring both families together, but was shocked to learn their son's new family had no interest in keeping his actual family around. Who the hell are these people? My wife, daughter, and the fiancé go into the house along with her mother and sisters and my son. A few minutes later, my wife and daughter come out and they're really upset. They tell me that our son and his fiancé, along with her family, don't want us at the wedding. I was livid. I called my son and he tells me that her family feels that we are not good enough and will embarrass them at a family wedding. Oh, okay. Meanwhile, you've been living rent-free in our second house all this time. Well, if we're not good enough to your new family to come to the wedding, let alone in our own house that you're staying in, well, here's the deal. You can pack up your shit right now, and you can get the F out and find your own place to live. And I don't mean next week or tomorrow. I mean right now. Now, if that situation happened to me when I was younger, not a kid, but when I was younger, and my mom and sister walked out of the house crying like this, my dad would have clocked me right then and there. Right there in the front lawn for everyone to see. Well, that's how the old school handled things. This is why from a young age, I learned to always respect my elders no matter what. I'm 44. If I see somebody that's 52, I'm going to be respectful because technically they're my elder. That was hammered into me from a young age, the military upbringing. Anyway, he says here, following the bombshell announcement, the original poster said that they let a week pass before making the ultimate decision to remove their son from their Pennsylvania home. Well, they're nice. A week, I wouldn't let 5 minutes go by. I let a week go by to calm myself down and drive back to the Pennsylvania house, he wrote. The new future in-laws are in the house along with the fiancée. It appears they all moved in. The in-laws moved in. So obviously this guy was manipulated by the girl, had him turn on his family, and now they're moving in for a free place to live. I would tell this son, look, here's what's going on. We're done. You cut this girl out of your life right now, otherwise we're done. They're using you. They turned you against us. I don't care how good looking she is or how good she is in the sack. You choose between your family and hers, because once you make that decision, it's done. And they're taking advantage of you. They're using you, and your life is going to be miserable. Don't come crying to me afterwards. You're a grown-ass man, because this guy is a grown-ass man in his 20s. You make that choice. And you don't get to think about it for a couple days. You make that decision right now. Yes or no? That's what I would do. I'm not a parent, but I know myself well enough to know that I wouldn't take any shit. It goes on. They tell me to leave their house. I lost it. I told them that they had 30 days to get out. 30 days? It's your house. There's no lease. There's no nothing like that. My son calls me and asks why I'm selling his house, and I tell him he was living there rent-free. But since he doesn't want us in his new life, he has to get out. The gall of them. They told him to get out of his house. I kid you not, I would set that house on fire when they weren't there. If it came down to them having it for whatever reason, obviously they can't, I would burn it to the ground before I let somebody else have that. Housing adult children can be contentious, especially when it comes to rent and balancing parental leniency and bad business practices. This is why you don't do business with family. But while much of this debate centers around parents and their adult children living under the same roof, the addition of a second home can bring clarity or complicate things even further. When adult children live in a separate dwelling owned by their parents, it is often easier for both parties to understand the difference between their family relationship and their relationship as tenant and property owner. I one time lived with a girlfriend, long time ago, guys, and her mom owned the apartment and gave us one hell of a deal. This is way long ago. We're talking like 2002. And yes, I lived with a girl and learned all the things that I talk about. And I was always respectful, especially because it was her parents. You bet your ass that rent was always paid on time. You bet your ass I took care of that place out of respect. And she did too. Absolutely. But this was a different era. It says here, in an informational guide for homeowners renting to their kids or their relatives, Chase Bank asserts that separating personal relationships from business is necessary for keeping peace between landlords and their loved ones. Set boundaries and expectations before jumping into a deal. The Chase website reads, keep the landlord-tenant relationship separate from your personal relationships and treat overdue payments or breaches of contract like you would any tenant. When there is no expectation of rent, though, and the tenant-landlord relationship fails to evolve beyond parent and child, chaos is almost always just around the corner, especially when a wedding is involved. Earlier this year, a wedding outlet Brides published a list of the 6 most common pre-wedding fights. Including them are the list of clashes over traditions, arguments over money, and competition between the in-laws. Well, they're not going to have to deal with this because they're walking away from this kid. Not include the list, however, are future in-laws uninviting the groom's parents out of fear of embarrassment. If anybody's an embarrassment, these people are the embarrassment. Throughout the comment section of the viral post, Redditors were taken aback by the original poster's shocking revelation, and even more stunned by their son's seemingly refusal to do anything about it. Because he's a disrespectful, weak bitch. That's what he is. One of them said, what kind of people do they think they are? How is your son okay with excluding his whole family? They question. Do you think his son's been brainwashed by his fiancée? I think that's definitely what happened. but also he's a grown-ass man, and he's accountable for his actions, just as any young gal who I generally talk about in these stories is accountable for her actions. One Redditor said, whose comment received more than 9,000 votes, was also perplexed. "They all moved into your house," they exclaimed. "That's so bizarre. Tell them they're not your kind of people, aka squatters." And a pair of separate comments, some of them slammed the original poster's son for thinking he could exclude his family from the wedding and somehow stay living in the house that they paid for. All those years, they live rent-free. He could have been living at an apartment having to pay for it, or racking up student loans for housing, but they let him live there rent-free. And while he was engaged to her, saving up for a wedding or a house or whatever. It says here, "I actually find it hilarious. He is so entitled to the house, he didn't even expect you to take it back after his actions. I believe this is exactly the reality check he needed. Excluding his family from the wedding for ridiculous reasons is a pretty big FU to you and your family. He is experiencing the natural consequences of his actions." You're damn right. Like I said, there are a lot of parents out there that would have cold-cocked him the second he said that. And there's a lot of parents that just would let him get away with it. But I see this as such a problem nowadays with the younger generation, the teens and 20s. They've been so spoiled to believe that they're so special. But at the end of the day, who do you blame? Do you blame the young generation that behaves this way? Or do you blame their parents that raised them to be that way? Well, I say it's on both. So smack to the young generation and smack to their a-hole parents for letting them be that way. Now, I know not all are like that. I know a lot of you guys that watch my channel, this channel and the other one, are obviously exceptions, but holy crap, unbelievable. That kid is out of there. I'd write that in there. You choose right now between your family, us, and her and them. And there ain't no going back after that. I'll be watching this story to see how this thing, how it continues. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me just think about this. Let me know. Would you do the same thing? Would you keep giving your son another chance? Or would your son ever put you in a situation like this? I'd like to hear about it. And also, guys, you come across a really good story you'd like to share, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will eventually. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.